Hey there, welcome on in to VGMporium, video game music and more. I'm your host, RageCage, and I'd like to welcome you to part 2 of Year 2 of Masters of VGM. And for this part 2, I'm going to be featuring original music done by these composers that I had chosen for this year. And if for some reason you happen to be jumping into this episode without listening to last week's episode, I would suggest you stop this and go back and listen to that, episode 78, Masters of VGM Year 2. And in it, I give you information such as games they've worked on, just cool little facts about them. And yes, that's such. And yeah, so this episode is gonna be more of just music, less talk, more music. And actually, while you're at it, go listen to the other episodes that have been done by other VGM podcasts for this event, because there's a bunch of them. There's VGM, mastersofvgm.com is where you can find them all. So if you happen to have listened to last week's episode, you'll remember that we ended on Stefan Moser, also known as Effoharkay. And that is where we're going to be beginning with this episode, starting with Wait, from his album, A Nice Place. This is the first song I heard of his back in 2016. I found this album on SoundCloud, and it is actually still one of my favorites. But, the entire album, more an EP, is, just all around just so good. I would highly recommend you listen to that, and then follow that up with Bridge, and then Soul Chunk, which happened to be released by Business Casual. And I will highly recommend you listen to all three of these, one after the other, because they're pretty, I like to consider them a whole piece. Now, moving right along, we're going to get into our next track by Effoharkay. This is called Alaek Grip, and this is from Staffcirc Volume Epsilon Naught, or Epsilon 0. That was Alaek Grip from Staffcirc Volume Epsilon Naught, or Epsilon 0, by Effoharkay, real name Stefan Moser. And if there's one thing I could say about this song, it makes me think of early Hudson Mohawk. Could have been something that was released in Polyfolk Dance. But nope, this song was done for Staffcirc, which I think I have mentioned before. They are a series of albums featuring various artists within the digital fusion and, kind of VGM and chiptune spaces. And they are all just amazing listens, and this song fits perfectly within that canon. So now getting into the original works of our next composer, Takahiro Yonemura, also known as Camille. We're going to be playing Yume de Aetara. This is the YM2608 version, and this is coming from Mystery Case in High School, and this was released by Synergy Music Network in 1992. That was Yume de Aetara, YM2608 version by Takahiro Yonemura, and this is from the album Mystery Case in High School, released by Synergy Music Network in 1992. And so Mystery Case in High School is a doujin album which features other artists such as Hitoshi Sakamoto, Kakenobu Mitsuyoshi, Shinji Hosoe, and Takeshi Abo, just to name a few. And it is a collection of original music from all these artists, and it's all originally synthesized, and I think what happened was Takahiro Yonemura just went back and did this YM2608 version for one of his Firecracker releases. But that's just my speculation. So now getting into our next track from Takahiro Yonemura, this is Natsu no Kagero, and I have two rough translations for this. It's either Summer Heat Haze or A Touch and Go. I don't know. This is coming from Firecracker Music Exposition Volume 1, Towards Summer, released in the year 2000. And you just heard Natsu no Kagero by Takahiro Yonemura from Firecracker Music Exposition Volume 1, Torrid Summer, released in the year 2000. And this is one of the two original compositions from this release, the other one being 34 Degrees Celsius, Torrid Summer. The rest of the songs are arrangements of music that he had done for previous games or Firecracker releases. And this was done for the 10-year anniversary of the Firecracker music discs, which he had started doing in 1990. And now we're at the halfway point. So now we're going to move on to Max Coburn, aka Maxo, with their track Lavish Lagoon from Level Music O. That was Lavish Lagoon from Level Music O by Max Coburn, aka Maxo. And I mentioned Level Music in the previous episode, as well as played a track from this series of albums on a previous episode. And what Level Music was a project that he did using sounds from the SNES. And, there's 26 letters in the alphabet, so what he did was he would release like 2 at a time, so he'd do A and M, then B and N, and then he's gotten all the way up to G and T, as well as did 1 through 9, and then Level Music Purchase, which was a independent senior project he did in the summer of 2013, where he created themes for all these different locations on the campus of Purchase College. Again, using samples from various Super Nintendo games, excepting the percussion, because at some point he started using the Native Instruments Battery VST, which allowed for a lot more variety and expressiveness with the percussion. So yes, it is a lot of music. It's all really good. You can find it at levelmusicmaxo.bandcamp.com. So now getting to our next track from Maxo, we're going to be playing Bishonen Line from his album Chordslayer. That was Bishonen Line by Max Coburn, aka Maxo, from their album Chordslayer. And truth be told, I was not ready for what this album contained because, most of what I had listened to was level music up to this point, and then, Chordslayer comes out, and, I am literally just blown away by just all this stuff that he just pulled off in this. It's crazy. I can't explain it. All I gotta say is go listen to it, and you too will have your mind blown. Now, a little side tangent, it's related. I'm pretty sure most everybody who's listening is aware of, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, and just how amazing that game is with everything that's, been packed into it. And one cool thing is that, I don't know if he's the first one to do it, but he's the first one I saw doing it, is that there's these pillars. These, I think they're called Zonai stakes, that can sink into the ground. And what he did was he took these, sunk them into the ground at different depths, and then used a laser to actually produce notes from them. So you can actually get musical notes from these stakes depending on how far you sink them into it. And he kind of went a little further with it and did a little familiar ditty with it. Just look up Maxo, Tears of the Kingdom. I'm pretty sure it'll just come up. And then more people have gone on and done more, and you can actually attach stakes to the stakes, again, depending on the length, angle, depth, everything. You can get all these notes out of it and just make music with these stakes and a laser and just spinning. It's crazy. I don't have the time, concentration, or energy to do that, but it's just really cool to see people doing this thing with this. All I can call it is an amazing game. But now moving on, we're getting into our last composer, which is where we began last episode, with Hikoshi Hashimoto. And the track I'm going to play for you is Not Guilty in the Red Storm from Retro Future in the 90s. And you just heard Not Guilty in the Red Storm by Hikoshi Hashimoto for Retro Future in the 90s. And I know, I should be saying 90s, but it's just really hard because, I've been saying it that way for so long, it's just, my brain does not want to accept it. It's always just been 90s. Grade A English, folks. And yes, this album, even though it says Retro Future in the 90s, this was actually released in 2018, but it is a collection of electronic and techno music that Hikoshi Hashimoto had done back in the 90s. See, I'm getting it. And this here's something a little different than what I'm used to hearing from Hikoshi Hashimoto, because most of his FM stuff is pretty active and bombastic. This might be kind of like a more slowed down piece from Cosmic Carnage, maybe. And speaking of things that sound different from what I'm used to hearing from him, our next track, this is going to be Innocent Blue instrumental version. This is the opening theme for the anime School Days, and this is of course composed by Hikoshi Hashimoto, featuring vocals by REM, real name Mashiro Tsukiko. and that was Innocent Blue, instrumental version by Hikoshi Hashimoto, and this was the original opening theme for the anime School Days. And yes, even though this is stylistically very different from most of the stuff I'm used to listening from him, it is very much a Hikoshi Hashimoto song just by like the composition, the way how it sounds, just kind of like the movement of it and everything. And you know, it's kind of funny that I'm ending this episode on an opening theme, but yeah. You know, this brings us to the end of Masters of VGM, at least for me, this year. And again, if you happen to be listening to this episode before listening to my previous episode, go check that out if you want more info on these composers, because I go pretty in-depth on, like, at least the, what they've worked on, some cool facts about them, whatnot. As well as check out all the other VGM podcasts that are taking part in this event, because they all have different takes on this theme. You can check them all out at mastersofvgm.com. So now I'd like to take this moment to thank Bedroth, Steen 3D, and Ed Wilson of the VG Embassy for all helping to run this event this year. And Bedroth and Steen 3D, of course, had spearheaded it last year, and then Bedroth again, who helped organize the event this year, as well as Ed Wilson, who had created the promo for this Masters of VGM Year 2. So thank you guys so much. So now let me tell you a bit about VGMporium and where you can find it. You can find it on all the podcatchers such as Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, as well as on the social medias, Twitch or Twitter and Instagram, at VGMporium. And then, of course, there is the website, VGMporium.wordpress.com, where you can find all the episodes as well as all the relevant links to, the social medias and the podcatchers, as well as the Discord, if you want to try that out. And then there's an email, VGMporium@gmail.com, where you can, send, comments, suggestions, and even special orders, which is a song request. So now, next week, make sure to tune in because I have a guest coming on. And who is this guest? It is Kung Fu Carlito of the Heroes 3 podcast, and he is coming on to talk about kaiju. And this is very much appropriate because on Heroes 3, they have just started a series on the films of Godzilla. And so far, as of this recording, they've covered the original Godzilla from 1954, as well as King Kong vs. Godzilla. And if you're at all curious about the history of Godzilla, I would highly recommend you go check this podcast out. It's Heroes 3, HEROESTHREE podcast. And it'll kind of give you an idea of what to expect with Carlito as my guest, if you aren't familiar with him already. And then finally, make sure to check out all the music of these 4 composers that I have featured in this episode, because, their music is all just amazing. VGM, their originals. I'm going to be linking everything in the show notes, and go check it all out.